Sometimes I wonder if we understand Islam as it should be understood.
Sometimes it's hard to strengthen our faith amidst all these distractions.
Sometimes we're confused about what we want and what our next steps should be.
Sometimes you need to take a moment and reflect on what matters most.
And because we live in such uncertain times with so much going on around us, I guess sometimes we just gotta sit down and talk about it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, once said that a person picks the deen or the way of life of his close friend. So let each of you look very closely at who he chooses as friends. And I think there's so much wisdom behind this, especially nowadays where our social circles influence us so heavily. So I mean, first let's speak about how they actually do influence us. How do our social circles and friends have any sort of influence on us with regards to the social vices that we see nowadays?
I mean, if you're part of a group, there's something called groupthink, and then you tend to like follow your group of friends or those you call it group dynamics, whatever works. If you are not the vocal type, then you'll follow the group and listen to the one who is more vocal. And so I think those who have a more assertive position, okay, regardless of if that's you or your friend, is how you sort of navigate your friendship or that group. So I think the way, like speaking about assertion, is like one way people are influenced is that in the friend and in the group of circle, if you don't assert your point or you don't assert the fact that what your values are, then your group isn't going to find out. They won't know, and so they'll tag along. Everybody will tag along together, and so I think that's one way khudam or influence is that they don't share or open up to their group of friends of what their values are if they're in conjunction with their friends or if they're not.
You know, just to sort of jump off that point, I would say that your group of friends influences everything about you, right? I mean, not only are you speaking to them face to face, but now all of a sudden, you know, you have them on Instagram and Twitter and this and that, right? So now when they're taking you in memes and whatnot, right, all of a sudden your Instagram feed begins to change, right? And it starts catering to those memes. It begins to cater to that same content. Now all of a sudden you're being flooded with information that you weren't being flooded with beforehand, and it begins to change your perception on a lot of things. And I think that's where a lot of that groupthink mentality begins to develop. And if you are shy about who you are as an individual, then I feel that your personality also begins to change, right? I feel as Ahmadi Muslim youth, we're very strong people, right? We have an understanding of who we are. But oftentimes what happens is that begins to get muddled, right? And that happens because we're in a society where there's so much of the other things and not enough of us, right? And so I guess that's where, as you mentioned, right, our personality begins to diminish, whereas the personalities of those other people, the personalities they impose on you begin to get stronger and stronger over time, changing you as an individual.
So what can an Ahmadi Muslim young person do in this type of a situation if they consciously see themselves changing as a person?
It's about understanding who you are, I think. Understanding who you are and understanding your beliefs, right? Like, I've had this discussion with Waseem Bhai, right? Like, Waseem Bhai and I have been friends for a very long time. We've been neighbors for a long time, and we've had this discussion. After every namaz, we talk about, you know, there's two types of youth within at least our local majalis we were noticing, right? They're the youth, so everyone grew up together, I should say. And then there was one faction, you could say, who was very strong with the Jamaat from day one and have remained strong. And then there's another faction who are very strong to begin with, but that attraction has sort of diminished over time. So we used to discuss that all the time. And I think one of the reasons is just sort of understanding the benefits that you know, staying close to Jamaat brings you, and then that sort of bleeds off into the types of friends you make, right? Because now all of a sudden your friends aren't just people who you hang out with at school. They're the people who you're walking to namaz with. They're the people who you're standing outside your house having a chat after namaz with, right? And then they're also the people you happen to go to school with, right? That's just like an added facet, and that's not like the main thing that's sort of bringing them to or into your life.
That's an interesting point that, you know, a lot of times we do see that somebody was very active when they were atfal. Like, I had a lot of friends who were very active. We were all very active as atfal. And, you know, those people who would, you know, be at the top, you know, over time is sort of, they changed as people, right? And it's like, just going back to them, like, used to be the one who used to win all those Nazm competitions. What happened now, right? So, I mean, over time, and what's interesting about this, what I see is that we put so much emphasis on doing tarbiyat as kids because that's going to sort of lay the foundation stone of that child's future. But then at the same time, we have so many examples in front of us of people who were so active when they were kids, and then when they grew up, they sort of just became distanced. So are you saying that their social circles changed and that had a negative influence on them, and their group of friends changed, which is natural. I mean, from elementary school to high school to university and then beyond, groups of friends will naturally change.
Absolutely. And I think it's more people come into your life, some people leave your life, right? Even with regards to your friends. And so what happens is, for my personal example, right? I grew up with a great bunch of guys and, went to high school with them. And then university, all of a sudden, we had different universities we were going to, different things we were majoring in. And then even after that, post-grad, right? Just complete different groups of people. But then there's still some people whose connection to you is so strong and so profound. Like I mentioned, they're the people that you're going to the masjid with. They're the people you're playing basketball with, right? They're the people who you're with all the time except for school. And I've still got some of those friends, right? They've been there since day one and they're still one of my closest friends. But then you also develop some other friends, right? And these are friends from school. And these friends, I feel that if your friendship with your original friends is very strong, then I feel like you look for similar people when making new friendships. Right, I'm sure you can sort of comment on that as well. Shakil and I went to school together. We used to literally hang out all the time. We used to do Jamaat work together. We used to go read namaz together. We used to, go to the gym together. So now all of a sudden it's not, this guy's my classmate. He's literally my friend, and if not my brother, right? It's stronger than that. What would you?
I mean, I'm touched. He said so kind words, but he made some great points. I actually was referring to his earlier point about sort of the influences and just trying to regain my thought. But the influence is so strong in this world, and there's so much social vices that are steering us here and left, right, and center. And I was going to say that Khuddam have to have a better understanding of themselves. You mentioned that, and so. Once they have a better understanding of who they are and what their values are, they'll be able to assert those. And it's important because when, for example, in this age of information, everyone's asking why. They're criticizing this philosophy of asking why to everything. And Khuddam probably know what the Islamic morals and Islamic teachings are, but if someone were to ask them why can't you come to the club with us if you don't don't have to drink? And that's a common dilemma between Khuddam is I want to hang out with my friends and not act like some social introvert, but I want to be there with them, but also maintain my Islamic values. So how do you navigate that? And I think just making sure that you can be friends with them in environments that are not harmful to you. I mean, I think the common sort of dilemma is that if I don't drink, is it okay for me to still be at a bar or at a playing pool with my friends? And I think Hazur talks about in a sermon, especially on self-reformation, is that the idea of a true believer, a mu'min, is one who even does not go near these social vices, these evils, because once you go near it, then it keeps bringing you closer. So the idea that Islam, it doesn't give you an antidote. It gives you a preventative measure, and that preventative measure what cuts the vice or the evil at its root. And so if we understand why we're Muslims and the why we can do certain things, of this self-restraint is just for us, and if we communicate that, our friends will know that what our values are and what our character is. And when we show this, it shows that we are strong individuals and we are not wary to such outside forces. And that doesn't mean that we can't still be friends with them. We can totally respect them and still maintain this relationship.
That's why you have the institution of Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya. The whole purpose of the Khuddam system is to the reformation of the youth and to also serve humanity. The difficult thing with being young is you always try. I would say not even young. You always want to fit in with a group of people. So if you had a Jamaat event, you want to fit in with them. But when you're outside, you also want to fit in with them. And the important thing is to, I think, understand that people think they can go do things behind others' backs and no one else would know. But once you understand that God is always watching you, you can be comfortable in knowing that to stay away from certain vices. And that. And the important thing is also to explain to your friends or to your peers why you don't do some things. It's easy for you to say, I don't do it. And the first question would be why. And to have a good explanation for that would be helpful. And in that way, they won't mind pressuring you again. They would know that, okay, he's coming. Let's not do this in front of him, or let's be respectful of his values as well.
This point that you just brought up, it actually reminded me of my first year in Jamia Ahmadiyya, Canada, when our principal, so we were coming straight from high school to Jamia, and we didn't know much about Jamaat Ahmadiyya, whatever it was. And our principal told us at that time that, you're coming from a different life and you're entering into a different life because you've dedicated your life to Jamaat now. And if you think that you can continue following that life that was prior to Jamia, then it's as if you have two of your legs in two different boats. And there's only so long that you can balance both things. You're gonna have to pick one or you're gonna fall into the water, right? So I think that's quite interesting that like some people might be living this double life, but there's no merit in living that double life. Eventually, something's gonna happen that, it's just gonna not turn out, like the results naturally will not be good, right? So what we're asking and what we're encouraging youth is, like you guys were saying before, is that be very assertive with the Muslim identity, right? And that's only gonna come, one of the ways is with knowledge of the actual faith, right? Like you were saying that a lot of people might know that, alcohol is haram in Islam, but somebody asks and, you start saying, oh, well, because the Holy Quran says so, right? That doesn't really convince anybody, right?
One thing I want to say to that is, and this is from personal experience, right? So I just finished up doing my master's, and near the conclusion of our master's, we had like this huge lab get together. My supervisor organized it, and obviously they brought in a bunch of alcohol. So I'm literally the only person sitting there not drinking. And so one of my peers goes, do you want to drink? And I was like, no, I'm okay. And he goes, why? And I literally, going back to being strong about your mentality and being fearful of the idea that God is watching you, straight up explained to him why. And then I sort of paralleled that with health reasons as well, right? I said, knowing what I know now, right? Even if I wasn't Muslim, I would not be drinking, right? For the following reasons. So it's no longer that, oh, look, my faith tells me to do this. It's also a personal preference for the following logical reasons, right? So I'm like, look, when both of them are coming together so harmoniously, who am I to go out of my way and say, you know what, let me still have a sip? And since then, they have never once asked me, do you want to drink? Do you not want to have a drink? It's just been something they don't bring up around me, right? So I'm sure they drink still, right? I'm sure they indulge in their partying, but it's just never around me anymore. And I don't feel excluded because it's, I still have my social interactions with them. I still have conversations with them. I still text them and whatnot, still hang out with them. It's just that they know I don't drink, so they don't do that around me, right? And what I find so amazing is people can be so understanding. People are so positive, right? It doesn't matter what faith you come from, especially living in a Western society like Canada. You tell people, I can't do this for the following reasons, or I choose not to do this, they will respect that, right? We're talking about alcohol and we can't drink alcohol because we're Muslim, but what about those people who are vegan or vegetarian by choice, people who eat, gluten-free stuff? You don't make fun of them, right? So it's like, why do you feel that somebody will make fun of you for making a decision to better yourself, right? There's so many celebrities from Hollywood, right, that don't drink alcohol, right? They're not Muslim. They're not, a faith that completely forbids the consumption of alcohol. They just choose not to do it. So if they can go on the world stage and say, I will not do this, period, and nobody questions them, why do you think people are going to hound you? If you can stand your ground and say, listen, I'm not going to do this for the following reasons, people will respect you. And you know what? They'll respect you even more because they'll say, you know what? This person is not a pushover. They understand who they are as a person. And that is so attractive in a person, right? Knowing that, okay, this is who this person believes they are. And you know what? I can see that. I can see that if this person says they're a Muslim and a Muslim fulfills these, identity qualities, I can see this person fulfilling those qualities. It's no longer this guy says Muslims don't drink, turn around, and this guy's, sitting there and drinking. And that to people is just like, wow, okay, you know what? This guy isn't a joke. And again, like I was saying, it's something that people tend to respect over time.
I think the explanation part is very important. We live in a very curious, curious society. It's one thing to make a statement, but it's one thing to justify the reasons for you doing it. And I think if you take a stance, I agree with Shaharyar, most people would respect your choice, because that's what we do with everyone. If someone tells me they have a particular thing about them, everyone else would respect it. If one person in my company is allergic to apples, surprisingly or not, then we're not allowed to eat apples in the company at all in the office. So it's like that, and people will respect as long as you're able to give them the reasons why. And I think that's another important thing, is the tarbiyat is one thing, but you should be comfortable explaining to others why you don't do it.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about the religion of Islam, is that not only does the Holy Quran state why something is forbidden, but if you yourself also research into that, for example, alcohol, you will come to the same conclusion, and then you will find an entire community and entire group of people who are against that very thing, and who are proud that they're not drinkers, right? And I mean, people who have had alcohol consumption problems, they've been alcoholics in the past, they will proudly say, we've been sober for such a long time, and that's a very, very amazing thing that they've accomplished and achieved in their life.
Right.
So I mean, people are proud of these things. It's just we haven't done the research, or at least we personally don't know too much about why a certain thing is forbidden in the religion of Islam.
Right.
And that's for us to do research about. And I mean, being youth and having so much at our fingertips, we have Google at our fingertips, we have social media, we have people that we can speak to, our professors at university, who we can go and speak to them about certain issues. And we'll come to the conclusion that, there's a lot of wisdom behind Islamic injunctions. And then once we know that, then, it'll give us more confidence. I think it's more about confidence than anything else.
I think that's all it's about. I think, if for somebody, let's just say you're lazy and you don't research, right? Just understanding exactly what you said. You've got people who become sober and they're celebrated, right? It's like, wow, this guy was an alcoholic and now he's sober. He's done a huge accomplishment. Understanding that there are other people who are non-Muslims who don't drink alcohol, or, we're just using alcohol here as an example, but it can extend to everything, right? It's like, you look at, it's unfortunate to say, but you see somebody who is addicted to some sort of drug, right? Crack cocaine, let's just say, for example, right? Because incidence of that is beginning to increase within Toronto, so it's relevant. And then you've got a group of people who don't do crack, right? And who's more celebrated? The people who are unfortunately addicted to those substances, or the people who aren't? Right? So it's like, why are you always going to categorize with yourself with the people who are taking part in something that society deems correct? I mean, up until a few hundred years ago, slavery, right, was something openly practiced. Islam forbade it, right? For 1,500 years ago now, Islam said no to slavery. Yet it was still practiced. It was praised as this amazing thing. And then the world flipped, right? Islam was already 1,500 years ahead of the world, right? And then the world goes, oh, you know what? I think we need to stop having slaves. It's not good, right? Well, it's like, why are we as Ahmadi youth, right? Why can we not take the teachings we've already been taught and be the path finders, right? Why can't we be ahead of the curve, right? And have the rest of the world follow us? Why do we want to wait until, some next, whatever discovery or something comes out saying, by the way, we need to stop drinking alcohol. It's doing this, or we need to stop doing drugs, or whatever it is, right? Why is it that we need society to tell us when the Quran has already told us, and historically, time and time again, Quran has always been correct, right? There isn't one incidence where anyone can point out that they can say, yeah, the Quran told you to say this, but the Quran was incorrect. That's never happened, nor will it ever happen, because it is the word of God, right?
So I guess coming full circle about friends and the influence that they would have on us. Let's say if somebody is in this type of scenario where he has lifelong friends and he knows that they indulge in certain things and he's indulging in those things with them, and he wants to change his life. But it's not easy to just wake up one day and just leave the guys that you've been hanging around with for your entire life. They know you in and out. They're also your brothers, just like how we would say that, we have Ahmadi Muslim guys who we grew up with and they are our brothers. But on the flip side, somebody's in this type of a situation. So what can that person even do now if he wants to take that step? What are some practical things, some practical advice that we could give to him?
I think as a friend, but if you're a guide, but just being another khadim, just help the brother out. I feel like our thoughts are so clouded when we realize we've been so friends with so long, so we're so accustomed or we've normalized our friends' behaviors. Just having a self-assessment is important. Just introspectively thinking about your time, your memories with your friends. Are you proud of your time with your friends? Can you tell me something that you like or the characteristics in your friends? Do you have those characteristics? Are you proud of yourself? Are you where you at? Do you want to be here, or are you trying to get out? And then Khudam will start opening up when you ask thoughtful questions and move away from the black and white and having them speak their mind. It'll give them their thoughts, or their words will be self-evident to them. They'll know, like, there'll be testimony to them that where they're sitting, like where they're standing at. Do they want to be here in this part of life, or do they want to move on?
Right.
So
Like, they'll just end up convincing themselves.
of course,
exactly.
and so just having that open dialogue with them, and you don't have to. And this is totally free of being judgmental, and that khadim is open to disagree or agree with you, and that's his life. But reassuring him that what our identity is, and we are on the same page, and we want to be on the same page to move forward. I believe that having that open dialogue it'll be self-evident for him, and his own thoughts will be convincing for him.
And I think once that open dialogue has occurred, I guess the next logical step would be, you've understood where you're going wrong and you've sort of identified what the issue is. Then you can begin to change your group of friends. And like you mentioned, right, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm not hanging out with these guys anymore. That's just weird, right? No one's going to do that, right? So once you've identified the issue, it's something that you do over time, right? You have to slowly, move these people out of your life. But in doing so, you're also, you got to change their behavior as well, right?
And you don't even have to go as far as thinking about drugs or substance use. You can just think about the minuscule, like for some people who are not Muslim, they think that if it's gossip, then it's okay, you're not harming anybody. But even as us, that you cannot talk about somebody who's not even in the room with you, just gossip it. And then, so I definitely, like, you don't even have to go so far. Just think about the smallest vices and how prevalent it is, because society deems it that if it's not harmful to somebody, yourself or someone else, then it's okay. And so whether that's bad language, even intentions, if you have bad intentions, Islam says that even cut those at the root. But society says that if you don't speak it, then totally okay. It never happened. And so if we actually tell our Khudam, take time and read the book Noah's Ark by the Prophet ﷺ, you'll have the manual on assessing yourself. After reading it, that section of our teaching, Prophet says that those who are part of his Jamaat and those who aren't. And after reading that, you'll realize that how much work you have to do. Everybody in this room has the need to self-improve and has room for improvement.
Sort of going back to the original question, which is, what is the benefit of having good friends? I think it boils down to something very simple. There's a TV show I once watched called Band of Brothers, and in that it was all about, World War II and how these group of soldiers, unseemingly people who were brought in from all walks of life were thrown into a plane and told, you're going to jump out of an airplane with parachutes on, right? Mind-blowing for them, right? And how they became literal brothers, right, over the course of that war. And I think a good friend is just that. They're your brother, right? Or for girls, it's your sister, right? It's somebody who you can talk to about anything and everything, right? Like, I mean, if you think about my time at York, there's always one person who will stick out, right? Like my friend Awais, he and I had all of our classes together. We know literally everything about each other. And, we're as close as two people can, possibly be. And having, a friend who won't judge you, who's open to listening and communicating, and who's willing to have those deep discussions with you and those difficult discussions, right? Like, look, man, I saw you doing this. Like, why are you doing this, right? If you don't have somebody to check in on you, like, obviously you're going to start dwindling down. So a good friend is just somebody who's just there for you, period, right? Like, doesn't matter what else is happening.
Jazakallah. I mean, there were some really great points that were discussed today. Main thing we need to know is that friends, our social circles, do have a heavy influence on our actions, on our deeds, and we need to be wise. Like in the beginning, we spoke about the saying of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that a person will adopt the deen and the way of life of his closest friend. So we have to be very careful of who we choose as friends and who we let into our social circles, and we need to be assertive about what we believe and what we are taught. And this way we'll have more courage to stand up for what we believe in. So Jazakallah for joining the discussion today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
नौनिहालाने जमात मुझे कुछ कहना है पर है ये शर्त के ज़ाए मेरा पैगाम